Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and we're here today to talk about some of my toxic traits. Well, more specifically, we're going to talk about some bookish habits that I'm going to try to leave in 2023. Like many booktubers this time of year, I was kind of looking ahead to 2024 and trying to figure out what my reading was going to look like, what I wanted to change about how I'm currently doing some things, and there were some things that I definitely thought to myself, you know what? I'm finally going to stop doing this specific thing because I just really don't want to anymore and I don't think it's helping me at all and I don't need it. Or some combination of those reasons and other reasons. Some of these bookish habits will cover my actual reading, some of them will cover my habits around reading, some of them will cover things I specifically do because I'm on the bookish internet and I just don't want to anymore. If you make bookish videos and posts and you want to continue this discussion about your bookish bad habits that you're going to leave behind, definitely do that and be sure to tag me in it so I actually see it and I can see where this discussion is going. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about some habits I'm leaving in 2023. And I already feel lighter knowing I'm not doing this anymore. My first bookish habit has to do with my booktube videos, and for that bookish habit I am going to stop cross-posting my videos everywhere. Here's the thing, I started making YouTube videos back in late 2015. It wasn't until the beginning of 2017 that I really doubled down on booktube as like my main niche, although I obviously do other videos, but I started in 2015 and at that point one of the biggest things that we were told to do as content creators was to share our videos absolutely everywhere we could think to share them. Because if people don't know your videos exist, people aren't going to click on your videos, all of those types of things. And I've kept that up this entire time and it's exhausting, honestly, because sure, there's a certain amount of subscribers that I've had. This amount of subscribers I've had pretty much for the last 3 years. It really hasn't budged more than like up and down a few per month, and I think that's just like bots come, bots go. Therefore, every time I make a video, not only am I coming up with the video idea, filming it, editing it, uploading it, captioning it, and posting it, but then I'm also taking that video link and sharing it to every place I can think of on Facebook, including different Facebook groups, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Reddit, on Discord, etc, etc, etc. Anywhere I think that I can put this link, I put it, and that's honestly just something I don't care to do anymore, so I'm not going to. Pretty much what I think I'm going to do is put the video live and maybe I'll share it on my personal Facebook, but probably not. That's pretty much the only thing I share on my personal Facebook, which is definitely a little bit upsetting to me because I definitely had a lot of photos of our trip to Europe earlier in the year that I only put in Instagram stories, and they're all saved there. People can see them, but like having them in albums on Facebook would have made a lot of sense, and I just didn't even do that. Similarly to that, there are just certain platforms that I will flat out not be using anymore because I spend way too much time just cross-posting to them and hoping that something's gonna happen and then hanging out in them hoping that I'll get noticed, and I think we know by now it's not an effective strategy for me and I'm just wasting my time. Therefore, down below you can actually find a list of social media places I can actually be found and social media places where yes, I have an account, but I don't go there anymore. That second category includes Twitter, Blue Sky, Litzy, which hasn't let me post a photo to it for ages, so I don't even know why I kept posting there. I was basically just posting, yes, I'm reading this, now I've finished this, yes, I liked it, or no, I didn't. Reddit and Discord. Now I still have access to Discord, I actually have access to all of these still, and I will be using Discord specifically for the Queer Lit Readathon, but there's a couple of other groups on there that I've been like cross-posting my videos to every time I post a video, and I'm just not doing that anymore. Something else I'm going to leave in 2023 is worrying about NetGalley books. Listen, when I started out using NetGalley, which I found through the library because I used to work at a library, I was like, this is a wonderful tool, and I went through and I requested a bunch of books, not knowing what the ratio of whether or not I was going to get them was, and long story short, there's a lot of books that I've gained access to that I have not actually read yet for whatever reason. Sometimes the format doesn't work, this, that, or the other thing. And yeah, my score or percentage or whatever on NetGalley is not as high as people would like it to be. Also, I kind of softly stopped actually requesting things from NetGalley in the past year or so. I think I've maybe requested 1 or 2 things, and those were things that I was like very excited about. And I think I'm just going to hard stop until the point point where I've actually got that score up to what it's supposed to be. That being said though, I'm not going to be stressing too much about that. It is a goal I have in mind. They are books that I said that I would read, so I will eventually read them, but I've found out that I'm really bad about reading things for a deadline for something like this. I will still review them, assuming that they're not a St. Martin's Press title, but I'm not going to do it in a very timely manner, so I'm not going to stress out about it. This is just a thing I know about myself. Similarly, I am not going to do book tours anymore. I think it was an Instagram poll that my friend Rachel from Reads with Rachel put up a while back that was basically like, how do people feel about book tours? And it seemed like, at least at the point when I clicked on the button, that people just didn't believe people actually enjoyed the book or thought the book was actually worth people's time, or even read the book when they were doing a book tour. And that was a little disheartening, specifically to me, because I do actually put in the effort to read book tour books before my book tour, because there's actually like a deadline time where I need to be doing a post, so that was the only thing that was making it so that I actually got to those books on time, unlike NetGalley books, which yes, have a pub date, but because I don't have to exactly post that day, my brain just treated them separately. I don't know why. So because of this one tiny little bit of information I seem to have gleaned, I've just decided to stop doing book tours. I don't need to do book tours. I have plenty of other books to read, and that's fine. I don't want people to think that I'm here just not reading the books and talking about them, because that's definitely not what I'm doing. Like, obviously I'm not doing this for personal gain or notoriety. I do this as a hobby. I do this as a thing that I personally enjoy doing, and I don't need people to stray away from the content that I do produce because they're thinking that I'm doing it in a malicious way. This is not me saying that people that host book tours or anything like that, or other people that participate in them, are doing anything malicious. I know they're just trying to get the word out about books, and I understand that, but at the same time I just don't want to put any more effort into doing this when this is the overwhelming feeling that people seem to have. And again, I could be wrong. I could have clicked on that thing at a particularly bad time and that wasn't actually reflective of what the community believes, but I did spend a lot of time the other day going through my email and unsubscribing from certain bookish lists and book tour opportunities, and then just deleting old ones that I hadn't even opened in the first place because it was either like a sequel or it looked like a book that I wasn't going to be interested in anyway. And I actually wrote down some of the things that I unsubscribed from. There was one called Readsy, there was one called Romance Me with Books, there was TBR and Beyond Tours, which is mostly the one that I was doing. There's Hear Our Voices book tours, which I think I've done a couple of theirs before. These last two ones are run really well, and I really enjoyed what I did with them, but I'm gonna take a break. There's also something called Bookish First, and you basically had to write a little essay as to why you should get the ARC ahead of time. There was another book tour thing that I was on for that had to do specifically with queer books, but it seemed like everything in there was like a sequel or things that I wasn't interested in, so it was easy to let that one go, and that's okay. Another bookish habit I'm going to leave in 2023 is placing holds on library books without considering the timing. Usually, I'd say actually about half the time, I'm pretty good at this. But sometimes I just end up with way too many library books. I feel overwhelmed. I don't actually get to read all of them. I feel bad about it. I feel like I can't even go back on the holds list for the book because I've just had my chance and I blew it. How it works with my library system is you're allowed to place a certain amount of holds on books. I believe it's up to 60 books, but you can also suspend your holds. So you can put a hold on it. If you notice it's got a really long holds list, you suspend your hold. So you're still going to work your way up in that holds list. So if you start at 24, you're going to go up to eventually 1. But if you suspend it strategically, you can wait until you're at 1 before you take the suspension off, or if you don't need it until a certain point, such as doing something like the Queer Lit Readathon, I know I'm not going to want those books until about a week before, so I will put a hold on them, but I will suspend the hold until about a week before I actually need the book, so I have time for it to actually come in and me pick it up and me read it for the event. However, when we're not talking about books I'm reading in June and December, this kind of gets a little bit hectic and I bite off a little bit more than I can chew, and then I just feel overwhelmed with the amount of books that are coming to me. So I am going to always strategically plan what I'm getting from the library, be it a hold or me just going to the library and picking something up for fun. Another thing that I'm leaving in 2023 is purchasing Book of the Month books but not reading them. Feeling like I need to pick a Book of the Month book even if none of them are really speaking out to me, instead of just skipping them. Book of the Month is fairly new to Canada. We only got it just over a year ago, so I think this was mostly born out of I want to be included. I'm finally included in this thing I've heard people talk about before. And I have picked some books that I'm like, you know what, these books do seem really interesting, this, that, or the other thing. But out of, I believe, the 16 books I've gotten from them, I have 12 sitting over there on a table that I have not read yet. So that's a problem. So going into 2024, I'm going to be much more mindful about the books I actually pick, and you know what? I can just skip it if there's no books that actually call out to me. Not saying that some of these didn't, because some of these definitely did, but then I forget to read them, even though they come in every month. Hello? That was funny. The call was coming from inside the house. Chad thought I left the house, but I'm still in the house, so he called me, and he's just in the next room over, so that's hilarious to me. But anyway, yes, I need to read more of the Book of the Month books I already have before I continue to buy them, because I feel like I need to buy one every month. I don't need to buy one every month if I don't really want whatever it is. And finally, and I don't know how to tangentially do this besides just thinking about it every time it happens and then trying to get rid of it, the last habit that I really, really want to leave in 2023 is constantly having my brain go, how do I make this into content? This is a really big one for me because obviously I have a limited amount of time in a week to do videos. There's one I do every week, and I've been doing it every week for almost 7 years now. It's just about 7 years. That's just around the corner. And anything I do on top of that is a bonus. Sometimes there will be discussions like this one that I want to have, but I don't want to be in a place where I'm constantly thinking, I need to get this certain thing so I can do this certain thing so maybe more people will like me and watch my content. It does feel like there's just such a pressure to be constantly trying to do the next big interesting thing, and what I've personally found is when I do something like that, one, I tend to actually whittle it down to things I'm really interested in doing, but then two, even if I do it super, super well, just the way that YouTube is and just the way whether or not people like me or they don't, it doesn't really affect how many people watch my videos. So every time I buy into the, ooh, if I do this, my channel's gonna blow up and I'm gonna have more people to talk to in the comments, that's never the case. I don't want my channel to blow up for any monetary gain. I'm not monetized. I don't care about any of that type of stuff. I just care about people watching my videos, giving a crap about what I've said, and then talking to me in the comments. And I don't want to be basing how I allocate my time and energy for extra videos based on what I think is going to blow up in the here and the now. So I want to finally train my brain to stop thinking, how can I make this into good content? If you have any thoughts or tips about that, I would love to hear them. As a little bit of a bonus, because I didn't want to make a separate video for this topic, but I did want to talk about it, there are some habits that I'm particularly scared to break, and I think I'm going to keep doing them. But also I just wanted to discuss them with you because you're already here. Do you have somewhere else to be? You can always pause this and come back. So the first habit I'm very scared to break is breaking my streak of having at least one physical or ebook and at least one audiobook every single week. This has been the case for me since I learned I could get audiobooks from the library for free, which was about 6 years ago, probably 6.5 years ago, when I first started doing weekly wrap-ups. I was, of course, wrapping up everything I would read, watch, and listen to, but the listen to was usually podcasts because I hadn't gotten into listening to audiobooks all the time. Once I found out about audiobooks free through the library, I haven't really listened to many podcasts since. That automatically means I read at least 104 books a year, which is great, and that's fine, but sometimes I'm having a week where I'm just like, I can't finish this book because I'm reading a longer book, so I'll then stop reading that book to read a shorter book just so I have something to talk about, and I'm really scared of breaking this because I've had something for every single one of those categories every week for 364 weeks as of last week. So I'm scared to break that. I don't think I want to break that, but also I'm just wondering if like anyone would feel badly or like look down upon me for breaking that. I just kind of need to know what you're thinking at this point. Because if I can't do this one thing that I'm known for doing, what good am I to the platform? Or at least that's what my brain keeps telling me. The other habit that I'm scared to break is the fact that I make monthly wrap-up videos for everything I read, in addition to my weekly wrap-up videos, which is everything I read, watch, and listen to. Because there's this kind of weird thing about some people who consume booktube content where they're like, if you're talking about things that aren't books, this isn't booktube content. So I specifically make those wrap-up videos to appease that side of things. I don't mind talking about these books more than once. Sometimes it is actually really good to look at them. And since I go through it in a different format, it's not just what I read week to week to week, but I go through it through the format of what was the least favorite thing and what was the best thing and how did I get there. I kind of like that, but also I'm a little bit scared to stop doing that because I feel like that will make me less of a booktuber. Isn't it amazing how much imposter syndrome you can still have even though you've been doing something for like 7 years, plus the year and a bit before that where you were doing not specifically bookish themed videos? Brains are wild. The pressure we have on ourselves, absolutely wild. In a semi-related side tangent, one way that I'm going to make my monthly wrap-up videos even more exciting for me personally is I've decided to participate in something I'm dreading a little bit, but also hoping it's a challenge that I can excel at, because that would be lovely. I am going to be participating in the bingo board from Hell 2024. If you're not familiar with this challenge, it's something that Lianne over at Literary Diversions came up with for herself partway into 2023, and now she's opened it up so other people can also participate with their own stipulations and own challenges. I'll leave her video down below explaining all of the different challenges and all of those types of things, but I've basically decided to take her blank bingo board and create all of my own challenges. This is one of those things where you're allowed to double up, triple up on prompts if it's applicable to do so, and once you reach a certain amount of prompts, you basically can check off that bingo board square, and you can also check off that square more than once. You also get to decide what your personal prize is for checking off different squares or making bingo. And I think that's cool, and I haven't quite figured out what my prizes are going to be yet, so if you have any suggestions, let me know down in the comments below. Earlier today, I went through the board, I kind of thought about what I've been doing in my reading, I looked at my 2023 reading spreadsheet and kind of tried to figure out some areas that I could improve upon, and here's what I came up with. I hope to cross off at least a few of these squares. Part of me really wants to cross off every single square more than once, so we'll see how that's gonna go, but this could be a little bit challenging. That's why it's called the bingo board from hell. So here are my squares, and let's just see how I'm gonna do in 2024 for this. The first square is to read 10 Book of the Month books, because like I said, I have 12 staring me at the face, and I'm sure I will get more in 2024. The second prompt is 10 TBR veterans, so books that I've had on my TBR either physically or via some form of ebook that I have been putting off and I haven't gotten to and I really need to get to. So things that have been on my TBR for over a year. Next is 10 ignored arcs. We talked about this before with NetGalley. There's also physical arcs that people have sent me unsolicited in some cases, and in some cases I've went, yeah, I'll read that, and then I just completely blank out of it because that's how my brain works. So any arc that's just been sitting around collecting dust, be it physical or metaphorical dust, that counts for this prompt. Next we have read 10 400 plus page books, because I tend to read the little bit shorter books. I do read some longer books from time to time, but as we've previously discussed, if I am reading a longer book and I feel like I'm not going to finish it by the end of the week, and then I have to swoop in and read a shorter book so I have something to talk about, and then I worry about whether or not I should be reading longer books anyway because they're just throwing off what I do for my weekly wrap-ups, I want to get that train of thought to be derailed. So I want to specifically have a challenge where I'm reading longer books. The very middle square of the bingo board is one that I took directly from Lianne, and that's read a random emoji book. This is something where it gives you a fun prompt to do, and you have this essence of feeling like you're going to get to choose a book based on a thing, but this is the only thing on this list where I don't have to do 10 of it to check it off. So in theory, if I do this once throughout the year, I get this square and I will feel accomplished. However, I can get this square as many times as I possibly want, so there's that as well. And it might help me pick some of the other categories of books that I'm trying to get through. My next prompt is reading 10 pre-2000s books. This one might be the most difficult one because if you look at my reading charts, pretty much everything I read is from 2020 onwards, so I tend to read the more recent stuff, and then maybe I think I had 8 things this past year that were published before 2000. So that's a thing. I also want to read 10 international asterisk books. I've written it down like that on the bingo board because that's what fit in the little bingo square, but really by this I mean 10 books from non-English speaking countries. So even though I try to read books from other places, I haven't put a lot of emphasis on that. So a lot of my reading wrap-ups, it tends to be like, oh, yep, 50% of my books were from America, and then like 30% were from other worlds, and then like some were from Canada, and then an occasional Australia one, and then maybe a New Zealand if I'm feeling really interesting. And there's not really much the rest of the world. Sometimes there is, but I'd like to increase the amount of those books. And I looked back on my 2023 reading, and I think that I had just under 10 books from different places. I could have been reading the stats wrong, but that's what I saw, and I was kind of embarrassed for myself. So since that's something I would like to work on, that's one of these squares on this bingo board from hell. I would also like to read at least 10, preferably 20, of my 40 before 40 TBR. This is a video I put out around my 36th birthday, and it's 40 books. It's actually sitting at 38 books right now because I never really got to a 40th book, and also I have to replace at least one book on the list because it's a St. Martin's Press title book, and I'm not reading that until they do what we need them to do, and I don't have any faith that it's gonna happen soon, so I've just taken that book off my list. In any case, this is a reading project where I read 40 different books that people have recommended to me to read before I am 40 years old, and I'm really far behind on it. I think I've read 8 or 9 of the potential eventual 40. Like I said, I have 2 spaces left, so if you have any suggestions, let me know down below. And that's really far behind because I am 37, I'm turning 38 in April, so at that point I should be at 20, and I am nowhere near 20. And lastly, my last square on this bingo board is read 10 library TBR veterans. Now, like I said before, you can put holds at my library and then you can suspend that hold, and I have probably about 50 on that list, and probably about 40 of them have been on there for literal years, and I've just never gotten around to reading them, even though I've marked them as something that I'm interested in reading. So this is the year to finally fix that problem. I'm not going to say that I never read these books, but I need some help getting to these specific books because they're books that I'm like, yes, I'm really interested in reading this, I'll put them on this list, and then promptly forget they exist, which is a running theme with me. So this is something I decided I needed help with, hence why it's on this list. Now, if you're looking at this bingo board and you're thinking to yourself, there's certain books that I typically try to read and I really advocate for, and they're not mentioned anywhere specifically on this list, aka queer books, that's because I don't have a problem getting to my queer books. It is in no way, shape, or form a challenge for me to pick up a queer book, so that's why they're not specifically reflected as a bingo board square prompt, but they're going to be reflected in many of the books that I pick up for the challenges that are on the bingo board. I'd love to say a massive thank you to Lianne for putting this whole shit show together because it is going to be quite a challenge, and I would like to wish the both of us the best of luck. Also, the idea of checking in on these prompts on a monthly basis during my monthly wrap-ups is really what's going to help me actually get far ahead in this challenge, because if you're anything like me, sometimes you make goals at the beginning of the year and then you forget what those goals are because you never check in on them, and then at the end of the year you're like, oh yeah, I did some of those, but like it's not because I remembered I was supposed to. So here's hoping that this keeps me accountable to what I want to get done this year. So there you have it. There are some things I want to leave in 2023 and some things that I want to have happen in 2024. If you have anything that you're trying to leave behind in 2023, let me know about it down in the comments below. And likewise, if you have anything that you're really trying to focus on in 2024, let me know about that down in the comments down below as well. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you're here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!